Hello, the John Sitton Football Uncensored podcast with me, Joe Mealing, asking the questions. I really had to concentrate there, John. But I got it. I nailed it. So we are we're going to do an overview of the England-Czech Republic game, and we're going to touch on the England-Scotland game. We've been slightly delayed, but we can cover those two games off. Not relatively quickly, but I think John will have a lot to say. John will have a lot to say about that. So let's kick off without further ado, John. How are you anyway, by the way?
Yeah, all right, mate. Yeah, eventful day. What you might call an eventful day.
Yeah. Well, you dosed up on your lollipops, didn't you? So,
off camera. Yeah.
Yes, you got a sugar rush. So let's make use of it before you
I'm not meant to have one. I'm not meant to have one.
No.
Yeah, I'm about to have a round. My missus putting me back with someone at the Tesco's in Irons Park, where the freezer section, and I couldn't believe the woman. I mean, how many brain cells you got? You know what I mean? She was probably the thing looking at her. Part of the Pride movement over the weekend, looking at the state of her. Yeah. She turned on me, missus. I just thought you know what I mean?
Well, you dodged a bullet. You dodged a bullet, I think. Well, she.
Yeah. But I don't know what part she did. Excuse me, can I just get to? No, I'm waiting for a message to see what I've got to get for her other half. You know what I mean? Well, while you're waiting for your message, any chance you could just move forward a bit? So anyway, I just leant over and got what I wanted. In the end, my missus has taken. No, don't say anything. I mean, you just, no problem. Get out of the way. Then wait. I don't want to make a career out of waiting for a message for whoever she's doing the shopping for.
Yeah.
These are the trials and tribulations of a black cab driver instead of an analyst or a co-commentator. The shit I'm listening to on this thing. Like I said in my book, in book one, about the normally the person with the best 11 players, as long as you're well organised and well drilled and fit, and dare I say it, motivated, they normally win. That's the team that wins the game.
Yeah.
I'm listening to this bird who's won Champions League, Women's Champions League, and all that, and I'm thinking, what fucking game are you watching? Yeah. She's talking about second balls. Spain have been magnificent, so paraphrasing, and they haven't lost a second ball. I can't think of a second ball Spain have lost all game. They've won every second ball. There ain't no second balls. There weren't no second. The only reason for a second ball is if there's a tackle and it squirms out, a shot or a cross that's been headed out or punched out by the goalkeeper or saved by the goalkeeper. And then like what you do, you lock on and you try and recycle the ball and basically keep the pot boiling. What we should say, keep the pot boiling, keep it live, right? Or if someone's playing an elementary long ball game, while the ball's in the air, it's 50-50. And then it's either the forward's knocked down or the defender's knocked down. And then you try and lock on and win the second ball. And I never saw I watched it for half hour. I never saw a second ball. The higher you go, and I want to know how they're getting away with it, and they're getting all these plaudits. And I've been sitting here for years scratching my nuts. You know what I mean? Yeah. The higher you go, right? Next time you watch a game, particularly in the Euros, right? Even at Premier League level, Joe, the higher you go, the fewer second balls there are going to be. You understand? Because the pass is more crisp and more accurate, and they don't resort to like what the Yanks call a Hail Mary. You know what I mean? Wimbledon were the masters at it. The governors at it years ago in my era. They were the governors.
Percentage football, I suppose, isn't it? In the old days.
Yes. Yeah. But I don't even know what game she was watching talking about second balls. My coaches, I'll see it. I come home, I help me missus. I said, I'm going to speak to Joe. I said, so you get on with the dinner. I said, I'll unpack. And then we sat down. I was having a quick bite. I looked over and I see the thing like 3-1. And then by the time I've finished unpacking and rinsed my plate to go in the thing, what do you call it? The dishwasher. It's 3-3. But coaches I played under there, they said, nonsense game of football. So, but what do? Do you praise the forward play, or do you say there's got to be a stewards over the defending because she's gone out the window?
Well, that does lead me on to the England game against Czech Republic, but also Scotland, because England have got the best defensive, or equal the best defensive record in the Euros. But it's also been levelled at them that they're a bit defensive and a bit turgid and a bit slow and a bit ponderous in the games, certainly in the second half against Czech Republic. So what was your assessment of the game? And do you think that Gareth Southgate has played a blinder and, got us out of the group without conceding a goal?
Well, we look at the group. I mean, yeah, me personally, I mean, you can only beat what's put in front of you. But like I said to you before on a previous podcast, I think the last 4, 5, 6 championships, if the Euros and World Cup, we fundamentally got a bye to qualify for whoever the host country is. And then at the group stage, we've got virtually another bye into the last 16. But the bottom line is when you're in a managerial position or a coaching position, you just focus on what you think you should do and what you need to do.
Is that touching your beard, that microphone? Because I can hear it crackling a little bit. That's it. Just pull it out a bit. That's it. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's
better. Is that better?
Yeah, it's better. I can hear it crackling, yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to grow a
Billy Goat Gruff, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was just, I looked at it and I thought to myself, it's... he's very, very focused, which is how you've got to be, and not worry too much about what other people are saying. And to be fair to him, they bounced back well from Scotland. I mean, very quickly with the Scotland thing, I thought that's a good word what you said, turgid. I thought it was very laboured. Like I said before, people go on in bygone years, about Sitch, you're too intense. Well, that's how I trained and played every day.
Yeah.
And that's how I approach matches. And I think that's how you should. I think you should try and train how you play. And when you run over the white line to play, you've got to have that really high level of intensity. And I think England are at their best when they're playing at a really good tempo.
Yeah.
And they're trying to force the issue. Against Scotland, it didn't happen. I thought Scotland they looked better organised. They looked like they had a better shape. They looked like there was more up for it, which I've, again, said on previous podcasts. In book 2, I'm going to make enemies, no doubt about it. For sure, people find another 10% as soon as they hear our national anthem. Because it's England, because it's the old enemy, all this cliched stuff. Yeah. And then they showed their true colours. They got a clump off of Czechoslovakia, and then in the last game against Croatia, and they're getting the plane home. Yeah. So in credit where it's due, I actually called, I think, when we done the last podcast or the one before last, I said I can see a win and 2 draws. It turned out 2 wins and a draw against Scotland. And then you come to that last game, 100% improvement. Stuff with Maguire, with Rice. It looked more purposeful. It looked like an injection of energy, better tempo, and what I would say intent. We were trying to be proactive in terms of trying to make something happen. And I thought we looked forward a lot better. See, people take, I don't know if I've come across or explained it wrong, or they just automatically get defensive. I spoke about Rice, and I really and truly, if the truth be told, all I'm interested in is how he's playing for England. I really don't give too much of a monkey's how he's doing for West Ham. They're saying to me, for us, when he plays for us every week, because I've made remarks on Twitter about him, and I think he's been... he's had too many plaudits. He's been highly overrated with certain aspects, and compared to Bobby Moore, and he's the next one, this and this. And they're saying, for West Ham, he drives in with a ball and he commits people and he plays forward. And I said, well, with England, for me, he just seems to settle too easily. And fair enough. I'll take the point that some people have made, whereby he might just be there to break it up. And the fact that he just sits and he's content to sit gives, I think in one instance, or for a couple of games, it's been Calvin Phillips.
Yeah,
the license to break forward. Yeah. But I'd like to see, like, when if he goes in and nails someone with a tackle, or he just reads and it gets an interception. Like I said to you before, you don't have to posture, get your head up like a meerkat. You can get a picture out the top of your head, like I used to coach kids. You know what I mean? You say, like, let's say about look up. You can look and you see out the top of your head and your peripheral. And then I personally believe he should be the launch pad for far more England attacks.
Yeah.
If you look at, they're going to start coming out with nonsense like comparing him with Bobby Moore. Just '66 World Cup final. Rest me case.
Mm.
You know what I mean? One free kick for the first one, and then one dink in behind for the fourth goal. As in he's won it, and instead of just settling like Rice does for a sideways pass to a fullback, a sideways pass to a co-midfield player, or he gets his body, does the matador bit, or he rolls it back, passes it back to a centre back. Not good enough. Not good enough. It's too accepting of like basically I'll settle for playing it safe. And I just think like what you should do is go bump and then like look into the front man. Can I punch it into someone? Can I play around the corner and get it back? Can I lend it and get it back and then go bump and it like maybe a 30, 40 yard diagonal to get us down off and running down one of the wings. You know what I mean? And
just on that then, so because I after your tweets, I did specifically, and obviously you mentioned it in the last podcast, I did really concentrate on Rice, and I noticed he rarely showed for the ball. When our centre halves had the ball, he tended to point to the centre halves to say, play it to the fullbacks. Basically, don't pass it to me, pass it to anyone other than me. He had the two forwards were next to him, but he was almost content to be in the middle of them or behind them, not breaking the neck to show for it and receive the ball. Is that him, do you think? I mean, I know it's difficult, but just as an ex-pro and sort of try and put yourself in this position, is he thinking, I just don't want the ball. I don't want the ball in case I make a mistake. Fuck it. I don't like playing the game with my back to the game, or rather, because he likes to drop deep and he's quite comfortable when he goes into the back three because the game's in front of him. Do you think it's that? Or when you're at that such a high level, do you think it's purely Southgate's just said to him, you're there to break up the play. You're not there to receive the ball to centre halves. Don't worry about that.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, if people are looking for a defence, if Southgate hasn't said that, which I would believe, I would think that like you've got to do both. I would never say to a player and never to coach him and concentrate on one side of the game and neglect the other.
Yeah,
you understand? Because it goes against the grain of what I've always been about, and with regards to talking down the or talking up, if you like, certain aspects of the syllabus that should be added and improved at the FA. Not to talk anything down there, because to a certain level it's good, it's okay, it gives you a basic foundation, but I'm talking about taking it on to the next step and the next step and the next step. If you look at the best over the years, it's probably Gerrard, Lampard in particular, especially in the middle third, Gascoigne in an era before that, Scholes, where they make the run, they come off at the it's all about coming off at an angle on the half turn, but as they're doing it, they're having a little look around them to get a picture of what's around them. So without even being told to turn, they know whether they can turn or not. They know whether they've got to have it bounced off them one touch. So like as it comes in and someone's coming into them, they just make do with one touch and share it on, just to pull a player in and create an hole behind them for the likes of Maguire or Stones to dink it in. Yeah. What I saw Maguire do, I think at least twice, where little balls, he saw little balls and he threaded it, one of them, and the other one he punched it in at pace to Kane, and made it stick. I still think he's coming too deep, but that's a side issue. I thought we were far more purposeful in the Czech game.
It was noticeable that the Saka, the goal, Saka, I mean, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on Saka, but he did drop very deep, received the ball in the half turn, player come up his arse, he turned the player, immediately progressed into their final third and created attack. Now, I know Rice isn't a forward player, but even Calvin Phillips has got that in his locker where he can turn the player, or he can, try and move up the pitch. And it seemed like that dynamism was really noticeable in the game against Czech Republic, whereas it weren't against Scotland. But on the Saka thing, I mean, was you surprised that he started? And do you think he played well? Do you think he deserves to play against Germany?
Yeah, I'll play. I think he does. He does deserve to be to come into consideration. He'd be at the forefront of the manager's mind. You know what I mean? I think he fully endorsed his selection. He acquitted himself magnificently. Different type of player, maybe to Rice in a lot of aspects. I think he's got a bit more pace and trickery about him. So he obviously, consequently, can afford to he come off at the angle. If someone comes in tight, he rolls them or he beats them. He just ghosted past the. It was like the geezer who had divers boots on. Do you know what I mean? He had that change of pace. Yeah, I mean, fast forward to the Germany game. I think we've got to get about them in terms of pace and trickery. If we can try and score first, I think if the Germans score first, I think they could turn it into, well, basically what the last half hour of the game last night was like, the Belgium-Portugal, where it's just absolute, like, dog, when it was very, like, it was dogged and very fragmented and very bitty and
sort of Italian style of sort of controlling the game.
Like what you call the dark arts, what you call professionalism, breaking it up, stopping the game when you need to. We was always coached that, stop the game. If it looks like we're going to get done, stop the game. There's nothing wrong with that. Manchester City are the past masters at it. When I saw them in a League Cup final against Chelsea, I thought they were just diabolical. I mean, I wasn't even playing and I was getting frustrated. I wasn't coaching or playing, but I was going berserk. I was sitting there with a mate and Chelsea had a purple patch for about 20 minutes. I'm going back a couple of years. And just like Man City were just like foul, 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 foul. And Guardiola's just walking around with his hands in his pockets. They're either very, very clued in players who have got a lot of experience, or it's part of the game plan. If it looks like we're gonna get done on the break, if it looks like they're stringing a few passes together, stop the game. It could be like that sort of going off the point slightly, but at the same time tying it in with Germany. If they seem to me that would be very appropriate to them. They would spoil the game, stop the game. So I think it's imperative if we can try and score first to draw them out. You know what I mean? And they showed against France. They always keep themselves in the game.
Yeah, just before we get on to the Germany game, because we can probably touch on that a bit more detail later. But everyone talks about Southgate controlling games and England controlling the game, and they've only scored 2 but haven't conceded, which I mentioned earlier. Did you feel as though they controlled the game against Czech Republic for 90 minutes? Because for me looking at it, I thought Czech Republic come into it quite a lot in the second half, and possibly had a lot of possession, certainly, and a better side could have maybe utilised that possession better. Do you think the result maybe flattered us a little bit, or do you think it was a very professional job and we sort of nullified the Czech Republic's threat? Because I'm just wondering, like you say, a team like Germany or a team like Italy or a team with more of a threat going forward, did we really control the second half against the Czechs?
I tend to agree with what you're saying, Joe. No, I don't. I mean, were they a threat? Did they have a real goal threat? Not to the extent where, in actual fact, they've actually. I think they've grown. They've grown since as they've gone further on in the tournament. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, Scotland, we've spoken about briefly. Croatia, I said in the last podcast, I think I didn't want to be a killjoy. I didn't want to be a party pooper. I didn't want to be a misery guts. I thought it's the poorest Croatian side that I've seen in a long, long time. I thought they offered no threat. I thought they were flat, no spark. And it's almost as if they were content to get sort of 9 men behind the ball, 10 men behind the ball, and say to England, which might have been part of their game plan, come and try and break us down. As a consequence, they offered nothing going forward. I thought it was quite comfortable for England. The Czechs, I think, would possibly come into a similar category. So I think the real tests lie much further ahead. That's where you basically, you earn your coin. That's where you're worth your salt. When you start doing a bit better against sides that are in the running for the championships. So, I don't know, your Germanys, your Italys. I said the usual suspects before a ball was kicked. Although my sneaky fancy I kept looking, I think, they've gone about their business nice and quietly, professionally. The Italians, everyone was going overboard about France and Belgium. I said, yeah, France are in with a great shout. To the extent where the manager tried to take the pressure off within his own group. I thought it was a brilliant riposte. Little side story, a brilliant riposta back at Mourinho, when Mourinho said something along the lines of, "I expect France, with the players they've got, to win it comfortably." And they asked Didier Deschamps for his reaction, and he said, "Funny thing is, I expected the same of him at Spurs." You know what I mean? So it was a brilliant comeback, and it took the pressure off. Yeah. But I've had a sneaky feeling for a while now for the Italians before a ball was kicked. But so they're going well. Where England's concerned, I think it's up to us to turn someone over of note, starting with the Germans, to get us in the last 8.
Just before we talk about, because that'll be in the next episode, but just I wanted to ask a question to you from Sean Dunbar, one of your regular followers on Twitter.
Okay.
And it was about, you mentioned before, the double diamond, the diamond midfield, and that would be the sort of the engine room of the England team if you were the manager, and that would be how you play. Given the fact we're playing Germany, but also the fact that we're going to have to start beating much better sides than we have to date. He was actually talking about the history of the formation and about how he first saw Terry Venables play at Barcelona. But he wanted to know whether it is particularly good at stopping, to coin the kind of common, the sort of modern phrase, transition, which these good sides are so effective at. So yeah. I know it's a bit of a complicated question, but I suppose how should England set up with, I know you like this double diamond, but if they do set up like that, is it perfectly suited to the better sides that are so good on a break and are so good at getting forward quickly?
I think so.
Yeah,
it's just my personal opinion. It remains to be seen whether England are one of the better sides. Very quickly, just to clarify a couple of things we said about Venables. The first time Venables in Euro 96 played a Christmas tree formation. So a 1, a 2, and then a 3, and then a back 4. So it was like 4-3-2-1. In terms of the diamond itself, that was first played in 78 by Argentina, the Argentinians, under, I think it was Cesar Menotti. And then what happened was, when he came to this country, Ardiles, he went on to become, man, I played against it. He went on to become, I think his first managerial job was Swindon. And he actually played it there. And if it's done right, it's a lot of hard work for the front player, but if it's done right, it's a really fantastic system. Because having come up against it, I mean, I was set back a little bit, but I was getting the picture of what was going on in the middle of the park in terms of the rotations, etc. Now, if you wanted clarification on how well it can work, last night, quite a few times, momentarily, because it's happening like that, like I've said in previous podcasts, that's how quick it's happening, and the ball's moving as well. So the opposition, but not only the opposition, it was slightly contradictory, because I said he was ever so good with his punditry. He'd give out a lot of technical information, John Hartson. But I think, like I said before, I might have said it on another podcast or on Twitter, I didn't agree with him with one thing when he said about how hard you have to work. You have to work a lot harder without the ball than you do with the ball, right? Well, that's where, as an ex-coach and manager, and a player that was coached at high level with good football IQ, I would beg to differ. Because if it's done properly, you've got to work just as hard with the ball, with regards to making runs, with regards to rotations, with regards to making dummy runs. So a run without knowing that you're not going to receive the ball, to clear the space for somebody else to receive the ball, right? Just to clarify that. But last night, momentarily, Belgium did it ever so well. They did it ever so well. So it was like they ended up like a 3, a diamond, then a 3. So they had high and wide right, high and wide left, and they had a focal point, Lukaku. But then behind them, they had like a diamond, and then behind them, they had the three centre backs, who I thought were magnificent.
Yeah,
and controlled the tempo and read stuff, and were very, very accomplished and composed, as I suppose you would expect with that amount of experience.
Yeah, although, like you say, I mean, what was it? Vermaelen, I mean, he was past his best about 6 years ago at Arsenal, wasn't he? So it's quite remarkable that he's still maintaining them levels.
Yeah, I mean, he gave away an unnecessary free kick and totally ridiculous. Got a yellow card for it. And if you're going to do it on the halfway line, not give a shooting opportunity to Ronaldo. But apart from that, I thought he was exemplary, as were the other two. Looking at the formation itself, I think it was suit England down to the ground. And the beauty of it is, you've got, if it's done properly, the wide players and the people who are wide within the diamond, that they can get rotations going all day long with the wide players, and then the one at the tip can make a two up front or get a rotation going with a front player. The only one that tends to be fairly rigid, although he doesn't have to be. So if Rice gets it, punches it to, let's say, the person on the right of the diamond, I would have maybe Mason Mount if he's able to play, or Raheem Sterling, who's having a good tournament so far. Well, as he does it, the one on the left can maybe come underneath him and then take the place of Rice. And then the one at the tip drops left, the one on the right pushes up or goes inside to out. And then the person who's supporting the play comes outside to in. So you build it in stages. And it's all about, it's a key word in football, recognise. So you've got to recognise as a player when to make it work, when to make it happen, what run to make. But then it's the job of the coach to basically bed in the fundamentals to help them recognise it. You know what I mean? And you've got to, as a coach, you've got to recognise when it can happen and where you can improve upon it. I just think going forward, it gives a lot more permutations. If you start off 5 diamond 1, and then you look at the situation last night with Belgium, they basically evolved into 3 diamond 3, 3-4-3, but the 4 in the middle of the park became a diamond. So there's so much, it's so fluid. There's so many variables. I mean, I think it's a great system. I think it's a great system if it's coached well, if it's coached properly, and the players are up to it. I think it takes some beating. Then obviously when you lose it, you've got that double reinforcement.
Yeah,
you're a bit of a nightmare to try and break down if you defend with discipline.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's leave that there then. We'll the next episode, everyone, which you'll see on YouTube just underneath this one, we'll talk about Germany. Hope you enjoyed that. Like, subscribe, and follow. And we'll see you anon, John.
Absolutely.